Hey everyone, I'm Robert Hall. This is a Channel Sharpen, and today we're going to be going over the Godox P158 Parabolic Light Shaper. As you can see, the P158 comes in this large rolling case, handle on the top for loading it in, as well as these straps if you want to carry it this way. There's also an extra strap if you just want some additional security to close it up right there. And there's another one of those right here. There's also a attachment between the two zippers. So as you go to open this up, it's very quick to do so. Now this little buckle as well as some Velcro on the top are nice because even if you leave it unzipped and tilted up vertical, it's not like everything's gonna come flying out on you. Now when we open this up, you'll notice that this panel is very flexible. It is padded, but the other sides of the carrying case are much harder. But there is this piece that goes on top, and that is your hard shell protection. So if you're traveling with this, you know that you've got 360 degrees of hard shell protection. And this piece right here is Velcro to the case. So you just kind of flip it up and then you can pull all the pieces out. Upon opening it up, here's the pieces that you'll find. This is the stand attachment. Got this very important orange pouch that we will get to in a moment. Then we have the Parabola, or the light shaper itself, as well as the focusing rod and the bird cage. In addition to that, there is a lanyard if you want to keep this closed up. That way when you pull it out, it's not so unwieldy like what I just did, but I leave that off. There's also a sheet which has very clear directions, but we'll go over that in this video. And there's also a little elastic netted section right here that contains things like product manual as well as a safety leash. Now this is the 158 version, but there is also a 128 and 88 version. If you're wondering what those model numbers reference, it references the size in centimeters. But let's go over how to assemble this thing real quick. So that little orange case that I mentioned, that is critical to set up and tear down of the P158. So if I stand up with this, these rods are inserted into the P158. If you're looking down, there are two very clear red dots on where they go. So one is here, and you put them in. They're interchangeable, so it doesn't matter which goes to which. So by pressing these two rods together, we open the parabolic up, and by pulling them apart, we close it down. Now, since these two rods are critical for opening and closing the parabolic, that means you definitely want to make sure you know where this is at all times, that you're keeping this with it. So as soon as I am done opening or closing it, I put these right back in the case. Yeet! This piece has three purposes. One, it holds the focusing rod. Two, it's your connection point to the light shaper. Three, it's your stand attachment. Very easy. Bowens mount, twist, lock, done. This piece right here, if you lift up on it, you can unlock it. Otherwise, it will not lift up or come off in any way. Next, we need to put it on our light stand. Now, I am demoing this on a run-of-the-mill C-stand. However, it would be my recommendation that you're putting this on something larger like a junior stand, because not only do you have the weight of the modifier, but you're also going to have a light hanging out of the front of it, which just means a lot of leverage. Now, this whole device right here for connecting the modifier to the stand as well as controlling the tilt is just exceptional quality from Godox. Like, this is a huge step up from the mounting equipment that you would typically find on their 80 series lighting. If I had any concerns though, I will say everything else is beefy except this little handle is plastic, and you might put a lot of leverage on this. I could see snapping this if you were trying to tighten it enough, so don't really like this plastic piece right here, but everything else is extremely well made. All right, the final piece of the puzzle is the bird cage and focusing rod. That needs to go inside of here. Now, if you're looking at this, you'll see that there are these two guards right here on either side. Both of these have a channel on the focusing rod that they belong in, and you can move either of them, but this one right here near the bird cage is far easier to move because it has these pinchers that allow you to release it, move it, do whatever you got to do. This one does not have those, and you can move it, but it's a real pain. So we're gonna take off this end, we're gonna remove the Bowens bird cage, which allows us to connect a Bowens light, as well as this, and then we can slide this end through and tighten it down. Now the whole purpose of this piece is so that if this is left unlocked, it can't slide out in either direction. So it's a guard preventing it from going in anymore, which is important if you have the P158 at a downward angle. Now, of course, this comes with a Bowens mount birdcage, which means we can put any Bowens mount strobe on it. But I do want to give a disclaimer here. This is an 8400 Pro, which is relatively light. It's lighter than the Godox 8600 Pro. And still, I am not exactly a fan of how it feels on here, especially on a C-stand. Like, I could easily tip this over just because it's so much leverage at the end of this. Now, it is zoomed out all the way. We have it on the 0 setting, so the light is as far possible as it can be, and it's gonna get easier the more we zoom it in, but this just doesn't feel that safe. Although I will say the stand attachment is preventing it from sagging at all. Like, I can press down on it further and it's not tilting downward at all. So it can handle it, but you really need a beefy stand if you're gonna put something like an 8400 Pro or an 8600 Pro on here. Now, when it comes to setting this up, there's a few things that you should do. First off, you should make sure that right here, this point is directly over a leg, because this is about to bear a lot of weight off axis from the center column of the stand. So we wanna make sure that it can handle the weight. Second, we wanna make sure that we are zoomed in near the center of the parabolic, because if this were all the way out here and we go and we attach some weight to it, then we are nowhere near in a position to save our stand from falling over should it be unstable. So we should keep the focusing rod zoomed in all the way. Then we can attach any of our Bowens mount flash heads, and then we take the cable, if we're using a cabled unit, and we feed it through this little slot. Then once it's attached, we can return to the back side of the stand and we can control the light's position. I really like the action on the piece that tightens down on the rod here. Doesn't take much to loosen it up so that you can smoothly control the position of the light, and then a little bit of twisting and it's fixed into place, and we are not budging that at all. Right now I have the Godox P158 set up with the Godox MS300, which I intentionally chose. I realized the irony in using a $100 strobe inside a modifier that costs well over $1,000, but I chose the MS300 because it has an omnidirectional modeling lamp on it that is 150 watts, so it makes it easy to visualize. It may not be identical to the light quality that you would get from flash, but it's as close as I can represent with constant light. So I want you to pay attention to 3 things here as I move the light. 1, you're gonna be able to see my position and me zooming it in. 2, you're gonna be able to see the light quality change on the subject. And 3, you'll be able to see any patterns on the wall, such as the light pattern or the cast shadow from the subject. Now we are starting at a setting of 0, which is maximum flood. And that means we are using the widest amount of the modifier to bounce light off of. But as I start to zoom out, right now we're at a setting of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're getting very focused at this point. 9 and 10, or the maximum focus. You can push it a little bit further beyond 10, but it's not a huge difference. If we just go from 10 to 0, you can rapidly see the difference in light quality.
Now my mic cut out here, but I also tested the color of the P158, because if you're spending $1,700 on a modifier, then you definitely want to make sure that it's got good color. Here you can see that the P158 actually improves the color quality of the Godox 8200 Pro. Not only does it offset the slight magenta color cast of the 8200 Pro, but it also increases its color accuracy in the R9 color spectrum and raises the CRI average overall. The only negative is that it does increase the temperature by about 300 Kelvin. The rest of this video will provide samples and behind the scenes using the flash as part of a multi-light setup. I hesitate to call this video a review because I haven't had time with alternatives from companies like Broncolor and Parabolics to know how this series from Godox fits in the market. What I do know is that Godox really emphasized hitting the mathematical tolerances necessary for this to be a true parabolic. It's evident to me that the P158 has both range, contrast, and directionality that are sought after when choosing a parabolic. This lineup comes out in contrast to the plethora of products that are described as parabolic but don't conform to the actual tolerances of a parabola. I think Godox did an excellent job in terms of build quality. The material, rods, opening mechanism, and tilt stand adapter are all a significant step up from previous products. Except for that plastic handle. We really needed metal there, Godox. I do think this lineup of light shapers is going to cause sticker shock for a lot of Godox owners who chose Godox for their budget products. Godox continues to push the ceiling of their product offerings, and this P series is clearly designed to fit the needs of more specialized photographers, likely those using lights such as the P2400 and AD1200 Pro. It's always important when new products like this come out to recognize that not every product is for every user. If you're using an off-camera flash setup of 3 V860s, then this parabolic isn't for you. No, seriously, a speedlight won't even produce light the way a parabolic is designed to work. With that being said, I'm thrilled to have the P158 at my disposal in the studio, as I'm really seeing the benefits in its light characteristics over the glow profound that I've been using. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Godox P158. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.